You are live, Commissioner.
Thank you. Good morning. This is the Board of County Commissioners Board Work Session. It is Wednesday, October 26, 2022. It is 9:09 a.m. This is set to go until 3:30 p.m. This is a hybrid meeting. We're in Building 1, Room 280. Are we taking a break for lunch too?
Well, break for lunch.
Okay.
Yeah, and I may get a call anytime after 11, and it will force me to drive home and then zoom in.
Okay.
So if that happens, I'll just track on Zoom.
For public virtual attendance, you may follow along on the Thurston County YouTube channel. Carolina Mejia, I'm the chair of the board. To my right is Vice Chair Ty Menzer. To my left is Commissioner Gary Edwards. Also in the boardroom, we have County Manager Ramiro Chavez, as well as Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell, as well as the budget team joining us. As we continue on the midterm budget work session, and this is a continuation from our budget work session on Monday. So we'll start with preliminary decisions continued. And Robin, I'm passing it to you.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. Good morning, Robin Campbell, Assistant County Manager. And as you've said, we are continuing with preliminary decisions on the 2022-23 biennium midterm budget adjustments. For those who are just joining us, this is a continuation of preliminary decisions by the Board of County Commissioners, and they are preliminary because you do not make final decisions until after the public hearing. You can change your minds at that time, but between now and the public hearing, the numbers have to be set so that they're available to review by the public. So that's why they are called preliminary decisions, to produce the board's preliminary budget. We have already worked our way through quite a few of the decision points that you had. You've already resolved internal services, grants, technical adjustments, carry forward, revenue, capital reappropriations, capital policy, non-general fund maintenance level items. You have reviewed the non-general fund policy, and we ended with foundational public health. We're going to start there in just a moment, but before we look at that, I wanted to give you an updated bit of information. This is a new document in front of you, Commissioner Edwards, on property tax. This is information on the property tax. And on Monday, I had shown you these charts. I finished this document, and what it shows is going all the way back to 2001, the assessed value in the county, the levy rate, the total property tax levy, the increase in the levy, and the percent of increase in the levy. So for example, if I look at 2021, the total assessed value in the county, this is where I need to put my glasses on, was 40,976,577 That is the total of assessed value of all of the property countywide. The county's general fund levy rate was $1.12 roughly, and it's carried out to quite a few decimal points, but roughly $1.12 per thousand. And the total property tax levy for the general fund, $45,381,772. The levy increased that year by $1.2 million. The vast majority of that was from new construction, which is the only number that's not on this page. And the tax went up by 2.74%. Again, 1% of that was by an action of the board, and the remainder was from new construction. And what you see is even though assessed value has gone up from 12 billion in 2001 to over 60 billion in 2023, the levy rate has dropped from $1.77 per thousand to now 79 cents per thousand. And the tax levy has gone up from 21.7 million to 47.5 million. So the tax levy has just over doubled, while assessed value is 5 times higher than it had been.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yep.
So this trends show down, looking at the rate, other than 09 to 13, where it climbed from $1.04 up to 144, and then continued down. So what that was post-Great Recession, so what caused that to go up?
So in the Great Recession, property values went down and the levy rate went up. And you see that
And that continued all the way through till
values going
2013?
Yep, and
Went to 13
then it
pretty
started
much.
to dry up.
Kind of a lag.
Yeah, in 2013, we'll start seeing a little bit improvement.
Right. And I would also note that the limit of the board's ability to raise property taxes by 1% started in 2002. If on the flip side of this page, you see a graphic representation of property values going up and exactly the inverse, the levy rate going down and the property tax, again, this is general fund, but growing at a fairly steady and small rate. And then at the bottom of this second page, you see the impact going back to 2017. That's where I can easily find average home value in Olympia off Redfin online. A bit of research tells us that in 2017, home value, the average home value was $280,000. Again, the property tax rate was $1.26 per thousand, roughly rounded. And the amount of tax that property owner paid to the general fund was $358. Whereas now in 2023, well, I'll go to 2022 because that's where I have hard data. The average home in 2022 is valued according to Redfin in June of this year, $541,000. Our levy rate is 97 cents. So the property tax for the general fund is now $527. If in 23 the average home goes up, you'll see that total property values in the county went up from 47 billion to 60 billion. That's a 27% increase. So if we assume that the average home value goes up by 27%, and the new levy rate is 78 cents, which we have calculated, then the property tax for the average owner for general fund will only go up about a little less than $14 for the year. So that's the effect of the rising value and the dropping levy rate, and that assumes that the board will approve a 1% increase in the levy.
You know, you commented that in 2002, I think, was the first year we could do the 1%. What was it for the
Prior
previous.
to that
Yeah.
was a 6% limit based on the budget that the board enacted.
Right, so, I mean, that's when the legislature put a restriction on what we could do.
The voters,
1%,
and then
and the
the
vote,
legislature backed it up, yes.
Okay,
Then the voters passed, but it was
Got
not
kicked out of the court. It
did,
constitutional.
yes.
And
It
the
was-
legislature followed
The
up.
leg-
it,
the
it was a
legislature.
mini tax revolt, if you will, that's all. It's just the will of the people being imposed. I don't have any question about your numbers, if you're wondering about where I'm coming from.
No, I'm just giving you additional information on the impact.
The thing is, I mean, all of our activities that we're dealing with, and, you know, that one that you passed out, that form from, where did they set the darn thing? The state, you know.
Oh, yes, I also did
Oh,
give you
the forecast and
the
Yeah, you gave me
forecast
a
for
forecast.
inflation, yes, I
Forecast,
did,
I thought. No,
Yes.
just covered it up. Anyway, that's, that inflation is for current, and then the anticipation is it's gonna go back down.
correct.
The problem is that, for an example, if we were to give our employees let's just say it's 8%, maybe it's not 10%, I don't know what the CPI is right now, but it's around 8 or 9, I know that. If we give our employees a 3% increase, if you will, we're actually giving them about a 6% cut in pay because their buying power is lessened so much. And even though we end up in a situation where hopefully inflation goes down, it all depends on what goes on in our country. And so it's all a gamble. But they will always take off at those new inflation numbers based on the high inflation that they didn't get a raise, you might say. They need a 10% raise to get a 1% raise to make it work right. And that's where I'm coming from. I want to give the voters relief everywhere I can. And the reason for that is we've indebted the voters, if you do 5 million a year on our sales tax for the homeless deal, it's probably more than that, but let's just say it is. And over the next 25 years, which coincides with the bond that we changed, that was not a tax increase, that was a shift, if you will, on priorities that we're gonna do X with this money. We've got plenty of rate ability right now to go to the taxpayers and ask them to do something for us. We just don't have the trust. We have not developed any trust with our voters that they trust that we're gonna do. It's not all that different. We haven't developed any trust with our insurance carriers. That's why our rates are so high. They review back quite a ways. That's the reality of what we're stuck with. So I'm not
It has
inclined.
nothing to do with trust.
It has everything to do with trust. They figure we'll make more mistakes. And that's what we've done leading up to this, is made mistakes. That's all I'm trying to do, develop trust. We've put many, I'll just use the homeless thing as an example. In the Puget Sound, there's hundreds of millions of dollars that have been contributed to solving that problem over the last 10 years. Has it gotten any better? No, it hasn't gotten any better because we don't handle it right. Now, that's my estimation, that we don't handle it right. Others have their opinion, and that's okay. But we're wasting money. We're throwing money at problems. I cannot bring myself to add more of a burden than what we've already added this year. If we add up this year what we've placed on the taxpayers and the 1/10 of 1%, that's kind of a perpetual thing. The shift on the 25-year runs out in that 25-year period. Are you telling me?
No, you know, I don't know.
Can we roll that
what you
1/10
mean
back?
by- What 1/10?
What ten?
Home fund. Home fund. Can we roll it back?
Up to you, yes.
Oh,
you
we
certainly
could. Okay, well, good. That's good to know. That's where I'm at. I'm trying to build trust with the community that I am not gonna be draining the tax rolls at all times to waste more money.
So I would like to make very clear that the only tax increase in this budget package is the 1% in property tax, and then there is a fee increase in the utilities for those homes that use our utilities.
I agree.
Those are the only revenue increases.
That's right. I'm talking about past history. We've imposed a 1/10 of 1% without a vote of the
Just making it clear
people.
for anyone that's watching.
I know, but I'm
Okay.
saying when we took it on ourselves to raise taxes disregarding the voice of the people, that squelches me for moving forward on raising more taxes.
How do we disregard the voice of the people? We had a public hearing and it was literally unanimous to support that, that resource for the number one problem. If you've knocked on a door in Thurston County as a politician in the last 7 years, homelessness is what is on voters' minds. So,
I agree with you, sir. You are exactly right. But it's there because we've mismanaged homelessness.
and about
To
public
this-
trust, Olympia passed a 1/10 of 1% home fund. They just passed a 1/10 of 1% arts and culture tax.
Yeah.
So apparently the city of Olympia has the trust of its citizens.
I believe they do.
Okay,
I do believe they do. But the county as a whole does
we've
not.
mismanaged so many things. Olympia just does everything right and earns trust, but the county has mismanaged it, and so we've lost trust.
I think that's right, yes. I think Olympia.
Well, maybe we should study what Olympia does and do it more like them, since they're so
Well,
successful.
I don't think you'll get the citizens of Thurston County to
Exactly,
support
it's
that.
not, so that's my whole point, it is not about what government does, how it operates efficiency, it's about a different mindset of a different electorate, but it's nothing that, and there's an anti-government, more of an anti-government mindset, and it's not, show me the place where there's an electorate that, you know, a county, more rural, electorate where the government has the trust of and willingly approves tax increases and, new resources and all these sorts of things that you say we can't get through because maybe 5 commissioners is an example of that. You've mentioned that as we don't have the trust, so we may not be successful there. I mean, where is the trust? What does it take to get that trust established?
History of doing the right thing develops trust. We could have this discussion that goes on for quite some time. You and I have a different philosophy, and I respect that. We really do. You could not get the citizens in rural Thurston County to support what the citizens in Olympia support. They do have a different taxing authority as well in Olympia.
But the
More so than
reason, what you just said is correct. And the reason is not because of how government operates.
Well, I think
It's a different attitude about what kind of government folks want or think that they should be doing.
I disagree 100%. I think that
You hit
we
the
have
nail on the
changed
head. You hit
much.
the nail on the head. You will never, you said Olympia worked, obviously was working very well and has
With
got
their
the trust of its
philosophy.
citizen.
With their philosophy.
You just said you will never get citizens of rural Thurston County to support those same things, even though it's done well,
No.
trust earned,
No.
working.
The citizens in Olympia are more inclined to be benevolent and giving, I guess. And I'll say the citizens in rural Thurston County want people to be responsible for their actions. And when we give away millions of dollars to derelicts and encourage them to come to Thurston County from Kansas City, and we won't even ask where they're from, we're never gonna get ahead of the problem with those citizens in rural America that expect us to do the right thing. The Ensign Road is a good example of it. I mean, they're just gonna keep coming until they're held accountable. I've had this discussion with Governor Gregoire at a recent event over at the Red Lion. I think the citizens want these folks held accountable, and you will either be punished or you will take the treatment. Her group doesn't think so, and I don't think maybe you think so. And Olympia probably doesn't think so, but the majority of citizens in Thurston County, I believe, think so. And I want them to have the vote to say how they feel, that's all. I mean, it's just a difference in philosophy. And we have a difference of opinion on it. And we're kind of representing two constituents, two different philosophies of the constituency. And I'm more aligned to rural America, and you're probably more aligned with urban America. And, you know, hopefully that gives us some balance as we move forward.
So I'd like to take it back to the subject at hand.
Can I ask a question,
Yes,
Robin?
ma'am.
So let's say we were not going to do that 1% increase. Can we
Right.
see the impact of the budget on that? Like, I would
Yes.
like to see,
I just I would just make one small comment on the 1%. I mean, you highlighted the history in 2002 and you called it a mini tax revolt or whatever it was. So, yeah, so I mean, to me, we still are operating under the legislative effect of that tax revolt.
Yes.
And that 1%, which was, so, and you know, for us to operate under that cap is for us to manage under the restriction of that cap is respect to that tax revolt and that limitation. To then take it one step further and say, we're not even gonna take the 1%, we're not even gonna take this diminished amount, you know, it used to be 6%.
that's all the policy.
We only get 1%, and then to say, I'm gonna take that one step further and not even do that, I think is just, it's just overkill. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah,
that's my
I
point. Okay.
I understand what you're saying, but
Yeah.
to counter that, over the next, I'll say 25 years, only because the bond issue adjustment, not a tax increase, because that same money was gonna be coming in, we're just shifting maybe the expenditure. But the 1/10 of 1% over 25 years, that's $150 million that the constituents that I hear from regularly feel it is not spent properly. It makes as much sense as when they build a $100 million jail and then let it sit empty. After the voters had said, no, don't do that. And so that comes back to the trust. We just don't have that trust.
But if I may, but at the same time, the argument is, as I hear, is the inflation is going 8%.
Yep.
And that is the cost of doing business.
No, when it's 8%, that's
That's
stupidity.
That's
That's the stupid government creating inflation.
I'm not gonna get that. It is a reality.
It's a reality.
It is the cost of doing business.
Yes.
And at the same time, we having a conversation that we want to increase the cost of living increase to those levels. And at the same time, we're not having an opportunity to increase by 1% the property tax, which is totally off from the cost of doing business. So I just don't, with all the respect, I don't connect the dots on that argument.
I guess I'm making stew and you're cooking eggs, I guess, because I'm mixing everything together.
Well, that's what I'm
You
trying to
are
understand.
mixing a lot of things
So that's what I'm
together.
trying-
Well, let me
I'm
use
trying
a
to
recent
connect the dots.
example. Have you been to the gas station lately? Gas is about $5.50 a gallon. I think I bought gas last night. In January, our legislature, our governor, we're gonna be paying 50 cents more in January than we're paying today. And so we add more of it. I'm taking the total package of what we've done and what's coming, And that's why I'm so opposed to additional taxation.
So let's bring it back now. Commissioner Mejia said, what is the effect of not doing the 1%? It's about $400,000, roughly $450,000. So this graph is if you funded everything, and it might be more worthwhile to look at the effect after you've made decisions. But looking at it the way it is now, what you'll see,
That's the 1% plus funding everything.
yes. So if the only change to this is to take out the 1%, that's the effect.
With funding everything.
Yep, with funding everything. So we can go back to this, we can make the final decision about property tax increase at the end after you've decided what all you want to do. And at that point, if you want to make any adjustments, we can come back to this. But just showing you here,
Pardon?
that's
Does that
the
work for
effect
you?
of 1%.
Let's make the decision.
Well, sure, but the 1% that we're talking about is the additional tax the citizens are gonna pay that come to county government. They're
That's
gonna be
correct.
paying so much more. They're gonna pay school tax, state tax.
That's right, over
cemetery
which
district
you
tax,
have
fire.
no control.
I know, but
Which is why I'm asking you about the thing that you do have control over. And what your decision, you have a decision to make. So I
And I'm
need to
basing it on
ask
the
you
total
what that
tax
decision
load.
is.
total tax load the citizens are
You
carrying.
can base your decision on whatever you
Sure.
see fit.
Right?
I can only ask you your choice about this one thing that the county can control.
I think your argument makes a lot of sense. If we still had the
Sure.
latitude to go to 6%, everything you're saying makes sense, and I probably would use that to pull down to like not do 6%. Let's do 3 or 4 or 5. But we're at 1%. I mean,
I know.
we've already been clamped down to the
But
minimum.
we've already taxed, just this year,
When,
about $6 million in new taxes this year
are
for the
you,
homeless thing.
are you in favor of a 1% COLA, 1% or more COLA for our county employees?
I think that they need 10%.
Okay, so 1%,
That will not,
Is-
you will bankrupt the county.
1% is roughly $500,000.
Yes,
A 1% increase in the property tax doesn't create enough revenue to cover even 1% for our county employees.
you know, it's not our employees that made any of these decisions that are driving the cost of living up for them. I think we're obligated to try to do our best to take care of those employees. Retention and recruitment is a big piece of what we ought to be doing, and we don't have the revenue to do what we need to do. I recognize that. So what are we gonna have to do? We're gonna have to prioritize. You can retaliate and say, okay, well, we won't pave any roads, or we
Totally
won't
not
hire deputy
retaliating. That
sheriffs.
is not retaliation.
Well, you
That's
can,
a-
no, the board has that option, they could, but that isn't where I think we'll go.
So I.
We're in a pickle and the country doesn't even, the media won't even talk about it. You said the other day, inflation is 3%. I
It's
asked,
going to be,
Well,
to
going to
clarify
be.
my statement in
I heard the president say the economy's wonderful and everything is going great. Just last night I heard him say that.
Can we go back to local?
Yeah,
Because we can't
let's
control
pull it
anything
back
that
in.
happens at the state or the federal level.
Well, we can vote.
Realistically, we can
Everybody
vote,
can vote, right?
but we can't
But we
do-
can't have elections, electioneering here.
But we can't have that discussion as commissioners. So let's go back to kind of what we can control, which is the policy decisions.
Okay,
Right, so
very good. Jim.
more information about property tax and we will revisit this at the end.
Okay.
Going back to policy decisions. We left off at the foundational public health. And the one item that was hanging out was the request, and this is on the policy general fund, I'm just jumping right
Line
in.
item 22.
Yep. Page 6 of 9, line 22. It is the request for a business application analyst in environmental health.
Non-general fund.
Which,
We're
file
gonna
is
switch
that?
between the two dates,
So
the
it's
previous date
October
and today's date.
24th file, number 18.
18, okay. I just needed to know which number.
Sure.
This is the non-general fund?
Policy non-general.
And what's our line item?
Line item
22.
number 22, yes, page 6.
Okay.
All right, and where we left it is, when you may recall, when you reviewed the table, there was $67,000 in the climate change bucket that helped to fund this position. And the direction of the board at that time, Monday, was to either go with it half-time unless public health had another funding source for that $67,000. They have proposed that they take the $67,000, and I'm looking for the financial.
Oh, I didn't give you one?
No, thank you.
I gave it to everybody else.
Everybody else got one.
45.
This is the financial plan for the Environmental Health Fund, and you will see that it has a robust ending fund balance. And so I am proposing on behalf of Public Health that you fund the full-time position and they take that additional funding out of the ending fund balance. And this financial plan includes the
67,000.
full-time FTE, if the board were to approve it.
So you're saying basically they absorb the,
They would absorb the
Half of the
and they have plenty of revenue to do so.
And then that would free up the foundational public health for other,
Exactly,
Product.
that
The climate
leaves
change
the
piece.
entire climate change amount, except for the small amount being used to finance for fiscal staff,
This
yeah.
financial plan only includes that 0.550.
can I ask, but, so,
It's supposed to be the full
You
FTE.
know, the email states the 67,000 will be funded by this. So assuming,
that was my question, so is,
Okay.
the under foundational public health, 20,000 will be funded by the toxicology and environmental epidemiology task number 8, and 40,000 by task number 9.
Right, from the foundational, and that is included in the revenue, yes?
so, clarification, so is the position going, the 67,000 only going to be funded for this? Or is the full-time position going to be funded from this?
It's an environmental health position. It will be paid 100% out of this fund.
So the 20,000 for toxicology,
That will be
open.
revenue into this fund.
Right.
No,
So
the revenue will come into this fund. It won't all get deposited into Fund 1500. So what you see in foundational public health, and I don't have the worksheet in front of me, but
this one,
yeah, that one.
I need to go get that, I have to see that.
I need that.
so guys,
You wanna borrow mine?
That's good clarification.
So this 1.2 million, even the 1.4 million, doesn't all get deposited into Fund 1500.
Right.
The environmental health lines get deposited into this fund.
Right,
Right.
but the point is, that position will be funded based on the information provided.
Correct.
20,000 in task 8, and 40,000 in task 9. So that is gonna become a revenue into this fund.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And the remainder 67,000 comes from
Out of the
ending
fund
fund
balance. That is exactly correct.
That makes sense?
Can we go back? So the 67,000 is going to be taken, or the other half of the position was going to be taken out of this fund. This the toxicology and the system-wide data management is going to pay into this fund
As a revenue.
to fund the other half of the
Yes.
position.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
that's what I needed to know. I don't know if now is the right time to bring in another policy issue, but I think we heard from the Black Lake Steering Committee on, kind of the funding that we did for lake programs and for environmental health. And for me, that's like, okay, it's working, we're doing kind of what we need to do. Is there a possibility that the toxicology, there's 31 left, that we can keep funding that program into the future? Is that a possibility? I'm not sure.
I think that's part of your baseline at the 1.4 million.
It
Okay.
is.
Go
So
back to
it
the page number 1. And that is under this line item.
So there were two-
497.
Just to clarify, I think there were two elements that the Black Lake Special District was happy with. One element is what Ramirez is talking about, it's the resources that we put toward septic team,
Right.
and that's embedded ongoing.
Yeah,
in
that's
base.
baseline.
They're also happy about, on top of that, there was an ecology grant to help, and that's a different thing and a
Okay.
one-time type of a thing.
And the grants will continue to be part of the strategy.
And it was both of those things together that's doing the work that they're very happy is being done.
So, yes, on point, and to answer your question, Commissioner Mejia, so this is a baseline. So we'll continue on the same investment, not just for Black Lake, but just overall in the septic.
Push sanitation control across the county.
Now, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Is this gonna have anything to do with solving the billing problem that we just briefly touched on? I guess it was Monday.
Yes, because you've said yes to the finance positions that are embedded in this.
So this is gonna help on that as well,
Absolutely.
right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's right here, all the fiscal stuff in here, you already said yes to
Yeah.
that, so, and I appreciate the support,
And then
thank you.
with the internal audit, I think we'll be able to see if there are any gaps left.
So.
To address them as
yeah,
well.
And I think it will be when you look at the 2024-25 biennium, all that will come together.
Yeah.
For you to holistically review.
So is that what we needed to cover there?
Yes, so I need the other
So
part
the
of
only-
this.
The only question that I have, and that was my suggestion, is to have this position to have an end date of December
Right.
2025. And probably Commissioner Messi captured that conversation Rob and I had before this meeting. Because the need of this position is here for the implementation of the Amanda system. And the Amanda system is gonna be consolidating all the permitting processes of CPAD, public health, and public works. But I think we need to give us and yourselves the opportunity, how that Amanda system is gonna provide efficiencies. If there is a need for an ongoing position after that implementation, what is the right position to be placed? Is it placed at the public health, or is a position that will manage the overall system? And that's what I'm suggesting the December 2025 end date. It will allow to reassess that particular aspect of the implementation of the Amanda system.
So, and I'm going to give you a counterpoint argument.
Okay.
And that is, for two reasons, I would suggest, well, three reasons. I would suggest that this have no end date. The first is regarding end dates in general. I think that the board should put end dates on positions that are tied to projects that end. And even though the project to implement the system will end, the system itself goes on. So really, this is something that has no end. The second reason I'd advocate for a no end date is because public health has done the work of asking other jurisdictions that have implemented a similar system to the one that they're about to employ. And they have 2 or 3 of these business analyst people who are working to maintain the system. Because every time the board changes a code, or every time the state changes a law regarding environmental health, the system needs to be updated so that the way it calculates permits and processes them matches the workflow and the rules that environmental health has to apply. And that is an ongoing, constant need, because things are constantly changing in what they do, and the system needs constant updates, not only in public health. CPED has the same need, and I don't know to what extent, but Public Works might have the same need. One FTE to do the entire thing will most likely not be enough, and we know that now. To get someone in on the implementation would give them the expertise within the system to take care of that ongoing need, rather than to lose someone because of an end date and bring someone new in later. The third reason that I would advocate no end date is because difficulties recruiting in the tech field are extreme, and they have been pre-pandemic, and it's only gotten worse. So having an end date on this position will make it extraordinarily difficult to recruit. So those are I think we both have valid points.
And I guess I'd like to hear, maybe from the counterpoint discussion that we're
You
having.
just love this.
I would like to hear why the end date is felt to be necessary. You obviously feel it's not necessary.
Right.
But you feel it is necessary, but I'm curious why. Because if we ever get to a position that we've solved the problem it's addressing, we can just eliminate it then. We've never,
No, you couldn't, that's why you make the investment of permanent position, it's difficult to just eliminate that position, unless you face budget cuts. Perhaps to answer your question.
Unless it's vacant.
well, even at that, we've got a history here at the county of taking care of our employees. And I would like to see this history brought out when we hire. So when we talk about recruiting or retention, we might have something with an end date on it. But you'd be hard pressed to find somebody that didn't fill another position, because we're an agency of what, over 1,200 people or something, the whole county, and we've got attrition going all the time. We've never sent anybody down the road. Well, I shouldn't say never.
I
'cause-
have.
Okay, you sent one, maybe, okay.
Two.
We sent one, for a lot of, I've sent others for other reasons, but
Okay.
not
No,
because of this.
I have for
So-
end dates.
So,
So-
to answer your question, and I have plans looking organizationally next year as to how we can incorporate efficiencies in the rural permitting process system. And how that plays a role, I believe they having an end date, it gave us the opportunity to reassess the needs in the long term globally, not just have environmental health need. So for me, it provides an opportunity to reassess at that point, and see how we can probably provide recommendations to the board on the ongoing maintenance. And without revealing too much of my plans.
I think I'm more with Ramiro, except for the fact of the recruiting of the position. That's where I'm really, I think Robin probably is right. I think it's gonna be hard. I know how hard it is to recruit anybody, period. And when the end date makes it really hard, so
The option that you may have is having an end date. If we have difficult recruiting, we'll come back and say we have difficult recruiting and eliminate the end date.
I'm more with Robin and the fact that we're seeing these, I mean, we're seeing it with public health, not public health, public defense too, where they implemented the system and now they're having issues with the data management and it's falling on the rest of the staff. I feel like environmental health has been one of those departments that has been struggling with staff, right? And getting like adequately staffed, and I don't want to set them back because, you know, and not be able to respond to needs because they're doing data management and trying to put, you know, the information into the system and trying to get it up to date. So if there's a possibility to pay for it, I'm in favor of doing it without an end date. I feel like there is going to be an ongoing need, especially with these systems. And especially as codes are updated and changed. So I'm seeing it more from Robin's perspective. And yeah, the recruiting is a big part of it. I don't know how we're going to be able to recruit with the end date and.
I mean, it's a different, the one thing I'd throw in is like, I've never seen a world like this. Like I grew up culturally like jobs are hard to come by and you know, the idea of like firing an employee, you know, like goes against like, I mean, the ripple effect, the disruption to a family. I just, you know, I couldn't do it in my heart to a productive employee unless it absolutely no choice. But we're living in a world right now where there's like everywhere you turn, there's jobs everywhere. So like the whole mentality of like an end date or having a temporary job or having to cut someone loose, like they're not gonna suffer the same consequences that I would have imagined of someone losing their breadwinner for a family in the 1980s. It's different. Like you can get a job anywhere, doing anything. There's millions of jobs everywhere. There's a labor shortage. So it's hard for me to adjust my mentality to this like current world. I don't know how long these conditions are gonna last. Because I think things are changing. I don't think all of the things that we're experiencing now, I think they're mainly pandemic related and they're not gonna stay static. So it's hard for me to look into the future with a crystal ball and know where we're gonna be in a couple of years in terms of the labor market.
You know, just this morning on the morning news, on, I don't know, ABC or one of them, in New York, I don't think it was a federal court, I think it was a state court. Said that, was it state court? District court, federal district court? Was it?
No, it was municipal court.
Was that the one on, they had to hire back all the vaccination mandate was determined to be unconstitutional. Okay, that's a lower court that made that decision. You know, if you think back, it's not gonna have a big effect on us, but like DOT, I think they let 120 go that would normally be plowing roads or something on the pass or something because they didn't want to get a shot. Those people are all coming back. The courts are going to rule in that direction as time goes on. So we're going to be forced to take people back. We're going to have to be laying people off. There's a lot of things that are percolating in this murk, if you will. And I believe that that's one of them that we're going to be faced with. So when you said it's pandemic related, you are exactly right. It is pandemic related, but it's going to have consequences that go out for quite a while as everything gets back to normal. And when's that going to be? I don't know, 5 years from now. So I understand where Romero is coming from on being able to make the adjustment. I just don't see that because your point about retention and hiring is true. That end date dampens it, but also I'm a realist and I've seen, Robin, you said you'd let somebody go and they didn't have another job. Well, I wouldn't doubt they were a dud to start with. I come from the philosophy of a day's work for a day's pay. I'm a day's work for a day's pay, and the harder you work, the more you secure your job. And so I have a little different philosophy even than you have on that issue. And I just think that if we would let HR put in some of their job description, this one has an end date, but we've got 1,300 employers, whatever there is. And it almost never happens, there's no such thing as never, but it's almost never happened that if you wanna, this job might come to a completion at some point, and there are many other jobs through attrition that are always open once an employee has been here, and if he is that employee, that you're getting a day's work for a day's pay, and he's working harder than some other loafers, well,
He's finding a place for him.
yeah, we're gonna find a place for that.
We've done that,
Well,
seen that happen
we've done
many
it.
times.
Although
Lots of
I get the message, but I don't necessarily agree with the adjectives.
I know, I'm kinda crude in that regard, I realize that.
And I have a completely different mindset. For me, I think the workforce mentality has completely changed from what it used to be, right? Where there are, as a younger generation of workers comes into, the values are completely different than what they used to be back then. If this job does not fit, you know, they're willing to go, and
That is a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, the new
The
work
new-
environment. I
it
agree.
is completely different, and you know, and less likely to take positions with these end dates because, you know, I feel like with government is always slow to the curve when it comes to workforce trends, and in this situation, we're also, you know, like, we don't offer the same benefits that private companies offer with, you know, full-time teleworking and that work-life balance. And for me, it's, let's offer something stable so someone can stay here instead of being like, well, I have an end date, this is just for now, and then I'm gonna be out the door as soon as something better comes
I
around.
thought you were gonna make the argument of, and I've heard the workforce right now, the new generation, they're nomads.
They
They
are
just
nomads.
spend
Mhm.
1 year,
Well,
2 years. So the parameters in which was permanent or not permanent position becomes irrelevant on the new wave of employment.
Well,
No, it just see what I'm
Yeah.
reading, because they tend to just move from
Well, I
job to
can see what
job.
you're saying, they would, you know, if you're gonna, that mentality comes with, you're structuring your life in a way that you're more mobile and you're not, it's not, you know, you don't build in mortgage payments and big car payments and all those things that tie you down to, you have to have that stability of income. You create a more flexible lifestyle. My question though is, when do we need this person like online? Like Ramiro, you're saying we could put an end date, and if it doesn't work, you can come back and we can remove it. How quickly do we need this person to go versus where Amanda's system's at? And
Do
So
we have the contract
do we have time
yet?
to do that?
Is the contract
I'm
signed?
hoping to have, I asked Dennis, that will be the last thing to sign the contract by the end of this month. I need to check back with him. So if the board approves, regardless, I believe the board is gonna approve in the position whether it's end date or not, we'll start recruiting January 1st.
Yeah, we would want this person on board as
Yeah.
quickly as possible to stand the system up.
So,
So, end date or no end date?
So, I hope you appreciate we have this conversations
Totally.
often, but this conversation has occurred in
Well,
front of you.
I wanna use an example. There are a lot of things that come into play. And you're right, people are willing to leave. We just had an excellent employee leave from across the hall here, just this last week. Went to Lacey for $1,500 more a month. But can you blame him for going to Lacey? And looked at by his peers and supervisors and everybody as, man, what a loss that we lost here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those were lots.
And so we need to think about the whole total package picture. I mean, deputy sheriffs in our county are the lowest paid around. They can go to Lacey, they go to Yelm and make more money than they can working here at the county. How do you expect to keep people if we aren't in competition with the real market?
Or just approve a sheriff deputy coming back in.
Well,
I mean, the compensation.
well, you can have more people, you can pay them all more and then have less people doing the work, and is that better? I mean,
well,
when I talk to the deputy sheriffs, that's what they want. But that, I don't know across the different departments if that's the right thing. Like in planners, you know, we need more people.
So I'll just say this, and this is from my own personal experience, people don't leave jobs, they leave bad bosses. And I strongly operate under that idea of, you know, sometimes there needs to be a cultural shift within our own governmental structure. But that's
sure.
kind of aside, right? if people are happy, they don't, people aren't looking for other jobs, where, they're getting paid more. Opportunities may come, but if they're happy, they're willing to stay because they know the work culture is good. They know that, they have a good, stable job, and so they're willing to stay. And so if there's none of that, then yes, people will take the first opportunity that comes up to them, and they will exit stage right.
You're right.
And
You're right.
and sometimes the grass is not necessarily greener on the other side of the fence. And I will conclude with that. I appreciate your diligence in hearing this conversation, so I'll ask you how you'd like to move forward with this
Right.
conversation.
I'm sorry, one more question. Ramiro, you said your proposal for an end date is December of 2025. So you're proposing a 3-year position, and that 3-year position somehow fits within your maybe larger scheme of.
Larger, no scheme plan.
I'm gonna go with the end date because the biggest concern I've got is, I don't know why it really matters. I think we can do it either or, end it when we need to end it, but I'm gonna go with the end date just to see if it fits.
I'm gonna go with the end date.
And I'm outvoted. I was no end date from.
All right, so full-time position with an end date.
And
Great-
end date
great
is
discussion.
12/25.
December 2025.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we want to look at the real estate excise tax. So you have 2 documents. They are both REIT 2 financial plans.
Yeah, 2 and 3 on there too?
Nicole.
No,
Read 2 and 3? Hey, just tell me.
Right, what are they?
Yeah, what are
Yeah,
they, just in a
so
nutshell.
REIT 1, you know,
Yeah.
REIT 2, you know.
Right.
REIT Technology Fund, that's the little fund that the assessor and the treasurer use.
Okay,
And right
that comes out
now,
of REIT.
yep,
But it's not the same division of funds coming from REIT like REIT 1 and 2.
it's REIT money, it comes off
Yeah,
a
but it's a
recording
very, very,
tax.
very small
It's very, very
amount.
Very
small.
small amount, that one's
Very small.
And then the 4th one that the county does not collect is a REIT conservation tax. And it would be used much like conservation futures. It would have to go to the vote of the people. I forget what the percentage is. But at one point, the board was looking at that as part of the options, one of the many options to fund the habitat conservation plan. And a way to expand conservation in general in the county.
And when you say it goes to the vote of the people, is it picked up at the same rate as 1 and 2? So 1 and 2 and 4
No,
would be
you
the same
would
rate?
set there's, I would have to take a look to see what the range, but it would be part of the ballot measure would be what the percentage is.
And it's attached to filing, or is it attached to home sales?
It's a recorded, it's a real estate.
The same
excise
as a real estate sale
Yep,
now?
it's
It's
a
a
part of the
real estate
recording.
transaction.
Yeah.
Yep,
I would like to hear more about that,
so
especially allowing the public to vote on it to solve the problem.
in January, I will, it would be
Okay,
used
yeah.
for totally different things, but in January, I will bring you all of the various revenue options
Okay.
that the board, there's a few things that you
Maybe
can
that
look
would
at.
be a good item for a planning session at the beginning of the year.
Absolutely would be a great
Usually
planning
we
session.
have, you have done it.
We've done it
Yes, I
Very
have.
nice job on the different revenues they work as an option.
Right.
Yeah, we can probably.
And even like for law enforcement, they've got the possibilities
Exactly,
to
there's
do it.
the
Law
public
enforcement
safety
functions, yeah.
tax, there's the,
It's just that in the
there's a few
past,
things.
there were a lot of other attachments added to it. We're gonna do the arts, and we're gonna do, whatever else.
There are many things that you
That
could
could be
do.
added, and that always sank the boat.
Well,
And I'm not saying art sank the boat, I'm just saying other things sank the boat.
let's look at REIT 2.
Okay.
All right,
This is item
so
15.
this, which which document?
Yeah, so you're doing one based on the CIP, so that's 15.
The 15 or the 16?
Yeah, which one, are you doing public works or CIP first? So we have two REIT-plans, one's based off what was input in the CIP, the other is a proposal from public works.
Ah, thank you.
That conversation was
So-
so long ago.
Yeah. You have to compare them. So the first one that Nicole is calling the CIP plan, this is the
That's number 15.
number 15, thank you. And on your printed page, you can tell it because it's the one prepared by Patty P. Rossetto in the corner. So this plan, the revenue is exactly the same in both of them, but what changes is the mix of projects. So in the CIP plan, what you see is $1 million for the trail connectivity program, and now it says 2 million.
It's $2 million because there was $1 million in 22 and $1 million in 23. They aren't spending anything in 22, so they moved the 22 to
But
23.
in the CIP, they've only put $1 million, so if
Is
the
that
board goes.
not right?
Yeah,
All right, let me go.
but 2 million, one time only is reflected in this plan, nothing in the future.
I do have a question on this. You're talking about REIT 2, on the sheet I'm looking at here, Patty. REIT 2, second quarter percent, is that it?
That's
on
right,
top
REIT
line?
2.
And
It's gonna
second
be-
quarter
I need to
percent.
come in.
Right, second
What's-
quarter.
Okay, so
because I've opened
is
both
this
Wow, the tabs.
the total amount brought in, or just the total amount brought in on the second quarter percent? It's total amount for the year, right?
But for just
Right,
REIT 2.
right.
For REIT 2,
Second,
the quarter
Yeah,
percent.
REIT 1 has the same revenue,
Yeah, so the numbers should be the same there.
just about.
Okay, okay.
so the titles are first quarter REIT and second quarter REIT. REIT 1 and REIT 2.
And that's what we're doing right now is REIT 2.
And we're looking at REIT 2.
Yeah.
Right, and it's
Right.
called a quarter because it's 0.25%.
Yeah.
A quarter of a percent.
Yeah.
But it has nothing to do with the time
With
period.
the year. Okay, thank you.
You want a paper copy?
All right.
So Commissioner Mr. Paper
It's
copy
easier.
to
I'm
compare.
good, I got my both tabs up. I'm good.
Cool.
Yeah, besides that, you got younger eyes too.
Well, I do need these.
Fortunately, there is very hard to see where the differences are
So the trail surface.
in these two plans.
Is the first one, right? No, the trail connectivity program.
It's totally.
So in the second plan and Karen's plan, they have, for the Trails Connectivity Program, they have an additional $1 million, $600,000 of it would be coming out of REIT 2, and $400,000 would be coming out of Parks impact fees. And that's on, I don't know what line it is because we don't have lines on these columns.
Yeah, so unfortunately, that's not the only thing that's changed, and it's very difficult to see where the changes are. So like, in the original plan that aligns with the CIP, there is,
So
881,000 simply put in, roads, parks and trails that's gone in Karen's plan.
So the trail connectivity program, can I go back to that one?
Yeah,
So with the trail connectivity program, they would have, because this is kind of what we were discussing yesterday on, we didn't know how much funding there was. So they have $1 million from this year and then they'll have $1 million from next year, so they have $2 million total.
right.
And then the request is to keep funding. The request is to keep funding from REIT 2 at $600,000 and then $400,000 from the park impact fees. So basically at $1 million a year.
That appears to be the new proposal.
Yeah, so I worked with Jennifer on this proposal, and there was a couple of objectives on the conversation what I had with Jennifer. It's how we can, it was a little bit unclear as to how the golf club funding will be. You see a revision on that, because that wasn't necessarily aligned to what the financial plan was, so there's a revision on that. There is a revision on the.
Which line would that be?
I'm sorry, that is line item.
What's the title here?
That is the Country Club Drive, Green Cove Culvert.
I'm looking for it here.
Can I ask a question? We're
The
jumping,
third one down on page 2.
what is it we're trying to accomplish
Oh,
in
it's on
this
page 1.
So-
part of the, so we're jumping all over the place and I don't know what I'm
Yeah,
trying to
so
do.
the objective that I wanted to have a conversations is with Jennifer was to create capacity for the board to
Is that it?
invest on the trail connectivity.
On an ongoing basis.
Oh,
On an
that's,
ongoing
okay,
basis.
that's a different read.
So through the result of that, there was a couple of revisions that needed to occur
Oh, okay.
to allow that to happen.
The unfortunate thing is they changed more than just the few things that you may have talked to Jennifer about.
So the preservation line changed, so with a couple of projects, specific projects for preservation overlay changed. And the result of that, and the golf club, also financial request from Reed changed. The result of that is really an increase in the fund balance in the long term, which creates additional capacity in the future. And also allocates $600,000 ongoing on the trail preservation program.
I'm seeing a couple other changes and I'm confused onto just like going back to like the barefoot soil renovation, is that, sorry, I'm trying to. Gosh darn it, I need to move it.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, on the Burfoot Park soil levy renovation, right? It says 25 for 23, 25 for 24, and 25 for 25. But over here, I'm seeing 50 for 23, 24, 25, and yeah, 25,000 for 24. and
They've made
So-
numerous changes
And
now,
then-
and this no longer aligns whatsoever with the CIP that the board has approved.
So
So,
how do we rectify that?
so how, like, what is it that we need to move forward with? And what is it that we should
So
not?
why don't, during the break, Romero and I could take a look at this and
We'll highlight the changes for you.
yeah, that's exactly what I think we need to do. So
Okay.
we'll come back to P2 later.
And I believe there is an opportunity for the board to align this to the CIP after the public hearing.
Yeah, and that will be the goal. Whatever
so that-
you
yeah.
approve in this, we will fix the CIP
So
after the
there's,
fact.
the CIP, the way it's moving forward has some numbers, but after the public hearing, you have the opportunity to align the decisions that you made with the budget with the CIP. So
Right.
that's how we resolve your question.
So what is Commissioner Mejia talking about, 400,000 from, you said park impact fees?
Yeah, that's what I heard, that,
No, what is, I think what Jennifer's saying is, what Jennifer has looked at those changes that I suggested and how the park impact fees will supplement some of those projects. They will lessen the request of the REIT 2 and allow additional capacity for the board to provide the rest.
Like on an ad hoc basis?
Right.
And then, so 600,000 of ongoing, and then if we need more for a particular project, we look at park impact fees, that's what you're saying?
Right, and but also you, if you see the ending fund balance between the two plans.
The one that they have submitted now doesn't look much better.
Well, no, but it's a little bit
You
better.
look at the ending fund balance.
And then what is, okay, so what then were you saying about Country Club Road's been changed?
Well, yeah, because what I asked, the country club road, for instance, some of the strategies was to emphasize the already $2 million that you put on the culvert replacement fish barrier passage. That was part of their plan, to put that as a priority in that year and put some of the money to build this in addition to the additional request from REIT. Because on the initial proposal, it kept the $2 million of the fish barrier program and an additional $2 million from REIT. That was not aligning to the whole financial plan that was proposed. So if you see in the revisions, we'll go back with Robin, is reduction on the fish barrier to at least $1 million. And so it's more aligned to more of the financial.
Because you're putting it toward that is a fish
Specific.
barrier,
Right.
Yep.
it just has that road.
So that was
That's right.
the
Got it
strategy
split
that we discussed on the financial plan is emphasizing and prioritizing this as a fish barrier so we can already utilize some of the money the board already approved on that program. It's about talking about priorities during that year, and you see those revisions as well.
Have we had, on that blockage, it was just a partial blockage, something collapsed or something in that?
Yeah, that was an emergency repair that we did.
Right, and so did you do that repair already?
Yeah.
So that's all cleared out now?
So the emergency repair that we had to do early this year,
Okay,
that was approved by DOE with the condition that we'll do a permanent work and fix.
okay, but we gotta have money to do that permanent
And
fix.
that's what, in the financial plan that was presented to you earlier in the year, and this, I believe, on the revised plan aligns to that.
Did they take pictures of that interior and stuff on that whole thing?
I think so.
I don't know, I'm just wondering if we're gonna have enough money to do this when we wanna do it, which is now versus maybe later. I don't know, just, I'd like to take, I'm not an engineer, I'd just like to see what the temporary fix looks like. Is it gonna last 10 years until we go to the
It's
legislature?
not.
Well, yeah, but you're saying no, but
Because,
I might go down there and take a walk under there and then wonder
well,
why.
you could walk, but I mean, you could.
How big is it? 4 foot?
So I think so just to give you an idea, the culvert was collapsing,
Yeah,
right? And we pushed
To
its
take a
sleeve,
short break, and are
Yeah.
we gonna lose you for the
Okay.
rest of
it's
the day?
another pipe
Yep.
to hold that
Keep it
collapsing.
from
For the rest of
any
the
more
day.
collapse.
So what it did is restricted the capacity,
Yeah, okay.
which is creating erosion on the slopes.
Not to interrupt, but let's come back to
Yeah.
later and tackle a few other items before Commissioner
So we'll-
Miller has to leave.
We'll give you highlighted line items.
Yep, we'll get there. So, again, move away from REIT, and we're gonna take a look at the ARPA plan. So, this packet. Number 17.
17? Yeah.
We are not asking you to make ARPA allocations. Well, except for one. What do you wanna do with the ag program? But other than that,
I thought we decided what we were.
I thought we did too, half a million.
Yeah.
Yep, $500,000 for that.
What number?
And that is, on line 2.36.b on page 1. We're gonna take $500,000 out of the million that's earmarked and move it into the approved column.
So the agricultural market grants, it shows that it's still, well, we're gonna be having a discussion on ARPA later on, aren't we?
Yes.
So I will not go in.
Yeah,
Where does the other $500,000 go?
the
Just
other
keeps it
$500,000 just
stays
stays
under
under
consideration?
consideration.
Okay.
Right, so the conversation we need to have this morning is I have explained to you an opportunity to do an FTE swap. And just to reiterate, what our internal auditor discovered when he read the final rule was that there is the that we can use the federal money, and this is not lost revenue, this is federal money, it's all federal money.
So not
but
out of the 10 million.
It's not out of the 10.
Okay.
We can use the money to pay for additional positions that were vacant on March 3rd of 2021 or added after that date. And Brandon and Tara in HR worked together to determine how many FTEs fit that simple criteria, vacant on March 31st or added after that date. And we can pay the complete cost of those positions, salaries and benefits. And then we took a look to see how much money is that worth in total? How much of that is coming from general fund? And the last step there is how much of that is being charged to other grants or some other funding stream, because we can't double dip, if you will. So we know that approximately $3 million a year is going to come out of general fund. The step that we haven't done is to see how much of that 3 million is already covered by other awards. I think it would be safe to say that we could take somewhere between 2 to 2.5 million a year on what I'm calling the FTE swap. So it's, you can do it each year in 22, 23, and 24. We can't go backwards to 21, that the opportunity's gone for 2021, but in
It
22,
runs out by the end of
23,
23.
24, you
Oh,
could do
yeah.
3 years worth. So my question, and the reason you have this plan in your hand is from the under consideration column, what would you reduce to be able to do the FTE swap?
With the target of, assume a 3-year, target of 6.
6 million
To
tops.
7.5? Cause you said 2.5.
Dude, you could go as high as 7.5, but I would,
My recommendation would be a little, because that, I think 6 is a little more.
I think 6 would be safe, and
You wanna know where we pull it out from
where would you pull it from? I
under
mean,
consideration list?
yes,
Yeah.
that's,
Oh, I got it,
has to
right.
come
I
from
have
the
a
under
couple of suggestions.
consideration.
Mine would be affordable housing right off the bat, cover the whole thing.
I have other suggestions for you.
I didn't figure mine was gonna sell.
We have some recommendations.
I'll vote otherwise if we ever get a residency thing figured out. You get a residency thing in there, my whole attitude will change.
I would also suggest that maybe you only look at an amount to pull out in 22 and 23 and you keep the other in your pocket.
Right.
So
For
look at
biennial
somewhere
consideration.
4 to 5 million range.
And thank you, because I think that aligns to the board's desire to have some capacity when they call us and come.
Class can
comes
come.
to you.
Yeah.
And the court backlog could be a piece of it. I mean, that's a lot of money in there, they're never gonna get those
That's
cases.
why my suggestion would be for you to consider those 2 items.
Yeah.
2.5 and 2.5.
I-
Fingers.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah,
So, and we pull the entire amount out of court backlog? 5 million out of court backlog?
No, I think I think my suggestion would be to take some out of the affordable housing as well. Because I believe that we are committed to at least in principle, to support the Franz Anderson
Right.
implementation.
So it's 3.5, I thought.
Right, so there's a little capacity on that, and also the backlog, we have a lot of capacity on that. Maybe you can exercise your decision and take in from both,
Little from both will work.
2.5 and 2.5 from each line item.
I'd do 3 and 3, 2.5, maybe 2.5 from homeless and maybe 4 from the court backlog. Maybe take a bigger chunk of court back. I don't think that's gonna be utilized.
So at this point, if I made the target on this conversation, perhaps 5 million, and that will give you the other decision in 2024, additional capacity for you to see how you react to the class income.
Okay, I'm good with that.
All right, so we're gonna take,
I'm sorry, Commissioner Mejia had something.
are you following?
So the proposal right now is for 2022 and 2023, and then leave 2024 as a discussion for next budget.
Another day, yep.
So the proposal, if I'm hearing correct, is taking 2.5 from affordable housing. So that would leave for
5.
5 million.
Still on the table.
And then the court backlog, 2.5.
Yeah.
Can I ask what the reserve for public health is, the 1 million?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that is probably additional capacity. You may have to redirect those funds later on. And the reason as to why the board decided to have in there, just to continue to respond to the emergency, but there's a lot of money has come in, and perhaps money is not there. But that will be another
That
discussion.
was set up before the last
Right.
relief package and before we knew the pandemic emergencies. We didn't know when they were gonna end or
Right, but we're starting to see that money get,
utilized.
yeah, well, not only are they using up the money coming in through those streams, but we're starting to see the streams dry up, if you will. FEMA has stopped.
So my recommendation will be to wait that until next
Leave that
year.
million on the table for later.
So at this point, if I may, on those two line items, maybe an option for the work to agree.
I'm good.
You good with that, Commissioner Mejia?
Yeah, so, just, sorry, I'm just trying to kind of, if I'm taking away from affordable housing, I want to be sure that, you know, I have all of my bases covered. I'm seeing for like the EDC, right, I'm seeing that there's a lot of it that hasn't been spent. When are we going to be kind of recircling back that money?
What are you looking at?
Is there
So
additional?
on the approved less accumulative expenditure, which is the last line, right? So for the minority enterprise investment, there's 767.
Okay, gotcha.
The Thurston business relaunch, there's
Those are
389,
unspent.
yeah.
I can speak to that if that's okay.
1.14 million, or 1.1, not 1.1 million. So I'm just wondering, when is that money going to kind of come back and
When is
recircle?
reversion
So
occur?
we are, this money doesn't revert. We have, work sessions with you now scheduled every other month to
Yeah.
look at this for updates. It was my understanding that you want further discussion on the childcare.
Yeah, I would like to have further discussion, because as you may recall, when we presented the childcare program, there was, out of all the allocations to the EDC, was just about $900,000 left. The proposal was to use that as for the childcare program, in addition, $1.1 million more, whatever you think is appropriate. So The expenditure, cumulative expenditures is still to catch up, and that is the projection. There's gonna be about $900,000 left. What is gonna happen is, since you already made the decisions, for instance, of to support the agricultural training program, 500,000, we have a contract with the EDC for the performance, I think it is the performance of all the different.
Right, they're doing a study of
assessment,
the
right.
impact of the
So we
spending.
need to make sure that we add that new program as part of the work,
Yes,
which is
that's
gonna
right.
create additional expenditures on the
That's
back.
right.
So it's a lot of moving pieces, and that is a great question that I think is, give us some time to bring you a little more detail as to what that is in the next.
Right. And then the Thurston Works Jobs Program, that's not through the EDC, that's through Pac Mountain. And it just took a very long time for them to launch that. They've just now got it going, they've got people placed in the nonprofits. I think we'll start to see that start to spend out.
So those reversion rates are going to.
Yeah,
I guess I would say to Commissioner Mejia's concern that if affordable housing is your concern, as we have these other areas of capacity, like there was a public health reserve, and a specific project comes to fruition, we can
Plug it back in.
we can put it back.
And you have also, I believe, capacity on the backlog.
Yeah, I mean, there may be additional
'Cause
there,
there is-
and I would be supportive of that.
the-
Right now, it's hard to just, you're talking about $7 million when we don't have the specificity of what we're doing with it. It's hard to go, well, that's not enough. We need to, I mean,
So eliminating the backlog allocation may not be prudent suggestion, but certainly at the rate of expenditures, there is no way that we can spend all the allocation for the backlog. It's just, no,
it's not gonna happen.
It's not gonna happen.
right, they can't even recruit all the employees they need to.
I have a question, because I was talking that with Patrick, I mean, we've heard it, right? Like, they're having trouble hiring, like, attorneys, and for the ones especially, where we are having trouble recruiting for the staff that was approved for the backlog, that we needed to address the backlog. In that sense, could we do hiring bonuses, and moving expenses so we can attract more people? Is that something
So specifically to hiring bonuses, I'm working with Maria to bring you a policy for you to consider.
You can't pay that out of the ARPA.
You can?
No,
Okay,
the
I was just wondering.
Lost revenue,
Yes,
yes.
but not
the-
ARPA.
And
Yeah.
even, I think it's a good point, like hiring bonuses, because that continues to be, and I will be bringing a policy for your consideration related to recruitment.
Okay, well,
Okay, so if I'm tracking here, we've lost Commissioner Edwards. We're gonna pull 2.5 million out of affordable housing. We're gonna pull 2.5 million out of decrease the court backlog. That puts 5 million into the FTE swap bucket. And I'm gonna add that in capacity in the general fund. On the shift.
but that's only 5, isn't it? Oh, yeah, 1, 2,
And I am encouraging you to leave the rest.
Yeah, and
For a
and I
later
believe that's what the board
conversation.
desire was, to create some capacity to react to the class income.
So I got an update. I have until 11:15. And then I
Okay.
will need to go home and Zoom after that. At any point, you need me to Zoom.
Great.
But I'll be unavailable like 11:15 to 11:30.
Where's Commissioner Edwards?
He ran away.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right, we are now going to try to knock out a couple of pretty simple things. We're going to,
I'm sorry, bro,
Yes.
before you jump, can you just put a bottom line on this FTE swap that we just agreed to? What does that do for us? Like, can you just
Yes.
remind us how that helps us in the big grand scheme?
This creates capacity.
No, we need the full board to make the provide direction.
we're about to.
I thought I already said. I just asked a question for Robin to explain what that FTE swap decisions that we just made, what does that really do? Like, how does that help us in the grand scheme? So that's, she answering that question.
Oh, okay.
So, just to confirm, because is out of this,
Yeah.
reduce the affordable housing by $2.5 million, so it's remaining $5 million.
Okay.
And reducing the backlog by another $2.5 million, so the remaining will be $2,200,000 and
Wait, no. You said reduce it by how much?
by $2.5 million.
Yeah, but then you said the remaining would be two something.
No, the rate will be
Yeah.
$4,210,000.
I think you misspoke.
Yeah, I
Did
did
you?
misspoke. I didn't mishear,
Did
right?
did I say two?
Yeah, you said two, and you throw me off. I have a hard time keeping track anyway, but every once in a while when you throw.
Thank you for keeping me honest.
So, no, I'm okay with that, and I would even say if we need to go more, we're just talking about 2 years, not going to 3, right? That isn't,
So that decision will be for
Yeah,
you
so-
next year.
oh, so okay,
And I just wanted to
I'm
kind of
fine
see,
with
how does that, remind ourselves why we're doing this? What is it, what is the advantage to doing it?
It creates
helps.
quite a bit of capacity,
yeah, it helps us out a bunch, I think.
so
Kind
from,
of leaves us to kind of how we left off
right,
a little bit. We
Almost.
were a little bit higher, but during that curve down, but
so
Okay,
it's where we are at the moment.
okay.
We're gonna do a few, things that I think are kind of simple. The first is maintenance and policy, general fund part 1. The only thing there is for you to just say no. This item is 60,000 that would have been, transferred to shore up the fair fund and they don't need it.
Number 19.
So this is a just say no item. Right?
Did that.
No to that,
And we're still working, given,
and the fair fund's fine.
okay.
And for the ensuing biennium, Josh will come and talk to you about staffing needs. So that's out. And then we're gonna skip part 2 and go to part 3. These are one-time items.
Are we still in policy, non-general fund?
We are gone to policy in the general fund, maintenance and policy, general fund, part 3. Because we have finished all but one item in the non-general fund.
What is the number?
Yeah, part 1, part 2, part 3, here we go.
Thank you.
All right, so these are one-time items. The first one
so
is,
agreeing to these is not gonna really hurt our graph too much because they're one time.
that's right, we'll spend them out of this and then it's not
We have a super
ongoing.
high general fund balance at the moment.
That's exactly right. It does have an impact, but, so the first item is transferring 708,000 into the land use and permit fund to get them through this year, transferring
That made
this
that
year.
thing just drop.
That won't make it drop yet, cause
Well,
it's
it's
already
gonna affect
assumes that you're gonna do that in
Oh, you've
this-
already assumed we were gonna
I've
do it?
already assumed in this graph that you
Oh,
will
okay.
approve
Good enough.
this item.
Well, do we really honestly have a choice?
You don't.
All right, let's move on.
Alright,
But also, Robin, it was an additional $1 million request for.
that is the other part of this, is I would ask you if you would approve right now $1 million in '23, because we saw a $2 billion, so, yes,
Okay,
what does
and
that
remind me
look
again,
like?
this is because fees aren't really properly aligned to actual expenses, there's a gap.
So what happened is, we overestimated the revenues. So we overestimated how much fees will come in.
Right, cause you have to guesstimate that in
Right,
advance.
so, and that created an issue because then we start using the NV fund balance. It does not
Okay.
sustain.
Alright,
Well, then we also I think that fund was one of the ones where they had a lot of things coming out of it too, and I think that's how they plan to readjust for next year. But they still need that 1 million, this is why Robin is asking for that additional 1 million, is to be able to kind of balance that.
Because 2022 is just, is a small stopgap, but really, in the 2023 is when it gives you the room to breathe in a way.
Okay, if you do the million, then going back to your chart, that's gonna affect that line.
So I'm gonna show you
It
a
doesn't go much
new
because it's
chart.
one time.
It's gonna blow your minds a bit, but this is where we're going for the rest of the day today. So if you hang tight just a moment.
This is your, do we have an option?
Nope.
We have to do it, okay.
Well, you do have options, but the options are.
Now I'm gonna share the
My
graph.
options are very different in this regard, that is farm it out. A
Alright.
lot more farm it out.
So, this is your decision so far. You've got a ton of money, right? But so far, you haven't added in the impact of a COLA. You haven't approved, any of the items
The sheriff's contract.
that haven't, that's not in here yet.
I thought we already approved all
So
that.
you haven't voted on them yet.
Well, then
So
those,
as
those
we
are like,
move
no
through
brainers, we
now,
don't get a choice.
We don't get a
Yep.
choice, yeah.
I'm gonna show you the impact as we go. So when you say, what does $1 million do to this?
we just
Where
stay
am I? This has the $1 million included,
This,
In the second year.
it does.
yeah, in the second year. So, but you've got more than enough money.
And
Now,
that's a one-time
when
expense.
after you go through the yes, 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 which we're about to do, about to say yes to a whole bunch of stuff, you'll see these bars go down, 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 and we can revisit the million, all right? We'll come back to the million in the second year.
And
I
then-
think it's necessary, I'm going to leave it in so you can see the
I
impact.
think we should just go ahead and vote on it. I mean, I don't really see an option with this. They're in the red. The forecast was very clear that they're gonna continue to be in the red. I know they said they're doing steps to kind of not be in the red anymore, but those changes take time. And I rather not be beating around the bush. I mean, they need the assistance.
And it's one time, and you've just freed up a lot of one-time money with the
Well-
FTE swap.
I have a difference of opinion on this topic, and that is that I really think we should be farming out, not mom and pop's, build a house deal, but when a developer comes in and they're proposing X, if it falls within the initial guidelines of the Growth Management Act, I want them to pay for the whole process of shepherding it through and not have our staff involved, that our staff can review it. Our staff right now has plenty to do with mom and pop. I don't think they need to do these major developments, and I think that would alleviate the problem. Okay, different philosophy.
It may not necessarily alleviate the problem because the
Well, it's-
issue is in labor.
It'll cut it way back.
So what you're suggesting is eliminating positions.
If that's what it takes.
So that's really the a way to
Through attrition, there's plenty of places for those folks to go
alleviate,
right here.
alleviate the problem is eliminating positions. If that's the direction of, if that's really the decision of the board is. If
I think that
I mean-
that's going to take a whole lot
Yeah.
more analysis though,
Exactly.
because
So-
the farming
so-
is out, they won't do it for free.
The what is out?
The folks that you farm the work out to won't do it for free,
Heck no, they're gonna do it at the expense of the developer.
as we do.
Yeah, well, we don't seem to get it done very timely.
There's that. So that is a much bigger conversation than I think we can have
for
this
you,
week.
for the board to consider the $1 million that I agree, Commissioner Mejia, there's really difficult decisions. It will give you 2023 to reassess everything. move
Yeah.
leading to the upcoming biennial.
Yeah, the upcoming biennium, and at that point, I feel like we can have a bigger discussion on whether, like, we're seeing, you know, the budget, we're seeing the trend, and we can either
Okay,
have a proposal to farm it out, but, you know, right now in the midterm, I don't know if there's much we can do at this time besides just
okay.
try to
So-
keep,
I know that the organizations like Master Builders, for example, they'd certainly like to have us add more, or keep the folks there and make sure they're still doing their thing,
Exactly.
while we're having that discussion. Okay.
So,
Okay, I'm good.
thumbs up, transferring 708,000 in '22 and $1 million in '23.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3 thumbs up.
That was a reluctant thumbs up.
Yes, it was.
I understand.
Do we get credit for under duress?
Lines 3 and 4 are the one-time bonus to the sheriff's deputy under the contract. Say yes.
Well, if we already did it, what are we gonna do?
Yes. Well, I need approval.
And you
from
don't
the
have that
budget line.
figured in there yet, huh? I thought you
I
did.
do have that factored in,
Oh, yeah.
and then there's one more item that is factored in is 56,000 for radio replacement. It's one-time cost in emergency management. And I would suggest yes to that.
I'm gonna say yes to that, but I would hope, and I don't know, is Ben gonna be running the show yet for a while? Kurt's coming back. You got that problem solved yet?
And in fact, we have interviews with 5 candidates on the public health director on November 21st.
Okay, I just would hope they would put in for a grant for that. Because that is one thing Homeland Security a lot of times will cover is any type of change in your local
I agree.
frequencies, then they will take that into consideration to keep you up to speed. Just using the train wreck
So-
as an example.
So with any luck, we could get a grant, but in the
Yeah,
meantime, if
Okay,
the money's in, we can revert.
I'd like to propose an amendment to that question, Robin.
Okay,
And maybe the board may consider additional money because we need to change the radio system due to the emergencies here.
I completely agree that we need to get rid of these
And the
radios that we
And the
use.
reason is, when we had this bomb threat a couple of weeks ago that we had to evacuate, the radios did not work. And we need to upgrade those
well,
radios
they're
as part of the
probably
emergency.
15 years old, aren't they?
If that, so my suggestion is for you to increase that amount. And we will work with emergency services to provide radios to
Yeah,
the rest of us.
what we don't know is how much
Yeah.
that's gonna cost. So if we put 100,000 in there, and then we could adjust it in the First Amendment.
You know, there is a proposal available on that topic. And do we have Verizon, isn't that what we have for phones like right now?
That's the carrier for county.
That's carrier, right? Verizon has a program where policemen and firemen, and I don't know why other emergency management type folks couldn't have access to this, and it has something to do with some kind of priority channel on your existing phone that does something. I don't know, maybe you can ask Capcom
Yeah,
or
I think,
somebody.
I
Ben,
think what you're talking is, yeah, some of the cell phones have the option of walkie-talkie.
yeah, it's something there, maybe Ben can find out for us or something.
Okay,
So this one, I know we talked about it, I don't remember the details, I've read through the note, it really doesn't explain, it just says why we need radios, it doesn't say what the unanticipated costs were. I thought we had a ballot initiative that passed a couple years ago to pay for this whole radio replacement system.
that was TCOM 911,
But it doesn't cover emergency services.
no.
So this is our part of that system that's
So
going across the region?
You're absolutely right, that initiative, TCOM 911, upgraded to a digital environment, and they pay the one-time the replacement of the individual vehicles for law enforcement and first responders, medic and sheriff.
Yeah, medic
law
one,
enforcement.
fire.
So there's, the emergency services doesn't fall under that category.
So we've already allocated money for this, but it fell $56,000 short, and now they're gonna, because it says unanticipated costs, and but the note doesn't explain the costs or anything. It's just kind of a foundation of why we need this.
I cannot tell you why the title of this is unanticipated. We've known that we need to replace these radios for a long time.
I don't think you allocated this in the past, if I may.
And
It's a brand new request.
So they threw that word in there so they could get through the budget, biennial budget.
I
No,
wouldn't conclude on those terms, but
I'm just wondering.
I really
I do
think that
not know why
Public Works and everybody ought to be
unanticipated is
included. They should have been included because it's a major change internally on technology. I don't know why they weren't, but all the municipalities, road department, all those folks all have
So this
radios.
isn't a cost increase, this is just the cost of the thing.
yes,
in my recommendations for you to consider bringing it up to 100,000 for us to replace the radios when we deal with an emergency.
And if you don't, you're gonna put that in the CIP or something, and that way it's there just in case we need to do it.
This doesn't go in this yet.
It does not.
It's with strategic plan number 4, if you saw it.
Oh, well then I'm good. It's in alignment with the strategic plan, and of course it's fine. Let's approve everything if it's in alignment with strategic plan.
oh, well,
She could
You know, I think it's pretty good that we could be in the same room with opposing philosophies and still have fun.
I agree. So I'm gonna ask for a thumbs up or thumbs down for 100,000 to replace the county's internal radio system.
Okay, are we gonna include Public Works in that? Then that won't cover it. If we include the Public Works, we won't cover it. I don't know, maybe they have compatible,
This is general fund, and they can probably cover the radios if they need to be upgraded.
I just wonder, does Public Works need to be upgraded? They could have upgraded years ago and gained this frequency area, and it just takes a crystal change or a computer change. I don't know the answer to that.
I don't have an answer to your question.
If Public Works also, if we completely change the system we use, Public Works would need to be replaced as well. Perhaps we can pay that from the road fund, but,
Maybe we can.
Well,
request
we
that in-
could,
Yeah.
sure.
in the
Because
first budget
these-
amendment.
walkie-talkies we have today do not work.
Absolutely,
Well,
I know they're not
Yeah.
gonna like what I'm going, but absolutely useless.
let's
I
do the 100 just in case, and then think about all that other
All
Public
the other
Works
types
roads.
of funds that
Because
we could
all
allocate
those
to.
entities become an integral part of emergency
I
management
agree.
when you have a serious situation.
So if the board approves 100,000 for radio replacement, then we will look for grants. We will look at the possibility of allocating to other funds. And what else do we need to do to pay for this to minimize the impact on the general fund, but achieve the goal of replacing the radios?
And Ramiro, your proposal for another 44,000 is to cover what? Who exactly?
For instance, here, when we had to evacuate we have a radio. The auditor's office has a radio, the clerk's office, every single office has a radio as a way to we communicate in case of an emergency. And I exercised that option, and my message didn't go through it. And some received, so it was scratchy, the reception was off.
So if we're at the atrium and the court's here, can they communicate that far? Or is this just a little
I think
walkie-talkie?
we have to look at that option, because if it's an emergency, they cover a couple of campuses.
I can tell you that the fair has a walkie-talkie today, and we can never hear from the fair. It doesn't work consistently,
And
does
we go
not work.
through radio testing every month, You know, and it's the same result. I mean, we don't get the feedback and there is gaps on the communication. So they're not working.
I see the need because when we were out there, a lot of people, the security guards did not get the message over the radio and they were trying to hear what was happening. And that's like the court security
Right.
over there. And they found out that this was happening because people were starting to leave. And they were like, what's going on? And, you know, we're trying to hear what's going on over the radio, but it's not, nothing's being communicated. And they're not sitting, you know, in a computer or checking email, so they didn't see the email go through. So that to me was concerning because it's like, okay, you know, they're usually the ones that do the walk. Once they found out, they
People
did the
were
walkthrough.
wandering around with the radios in their hand going, my radio's not working, I don't know what's going on. It was ridiculous,
Just for the record, I did follow the instructions
totally ridiculous.
for the radio.
Well, there's
Just
that too.
for the record, I did follow
If
the
you
instructions.
don't hold it up and down, and if you lay it down, it's truly, they need to be replaced.
Did you take the tinfoil out of your pocket and wrap it around me?
I did follow the
exactly.
instructions, Commissioner.
So, can I get a thumbs up or down, 100,000 to replace the
I'm good.
radios with all the caveats? Yes,
I'll go with the
excellent.
EMS council, but
All right,
Thank you.
so we are gonna move on to now small items. It is maintenance and policy, general fund part 2.
this is item 4, the
There's
one
5 of
called
them.
part 4 or whatever.
This is part 2.
Oh, part 2.
Yep, number
2,
1.
from
Go
3 to
back.
2, and then go back.
Yep, we're going backwards.
Number 2.
All right, so, I'm gonna walk down this list very quickly, because these are very small dollar amounts. CPED has asked for $2,000, less than 1,000 this year, a little under 2,000 next year, to address salary increases to be on par with WS2. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
2 thumbs, 3 thumbs up.
Yeah,
So
that's the
that's a
4-H thing.
yes. See, doesn't even make a dent in your graph. County dues increase in non-departmental, for all of the various associations, $2,000, 1, 2.
I do have a question about that. Why
Yes.
can't that be a 60-40 split?
It is, eventually it has to be paid out of the general fund next year, but then it goes
Okay.
into the,
Okay,
cost plan. The next item on the list, sheriff law enforcement, it's $5,000 for, hiring, getting software to help with hiring efficiency.
Can be absorbed.
It can't be absorbed.
Could be absorbed. They
I feel
don't
like
like
I
to
have
absorb.
such other bigger needs that I would want to address the bigger needs over, I feel like.
Okay, so see your graph? If you approve this $5,000,
doesn't change it.
it doesn't even make it move.
But a bunch of these added up would, eventually, how many do you have?
Yeah, well, pretty soon it's real money, and at the bottom line, if you said yes to every one of these items, the total hit is $114,000. These are small items.
Okay, I bet you won't be able to see it move, but it will move at 100.
So let's go down and let's say you said yes to every one of them. This says yes to the sheriff, yes to the treasurer for postage.
You're gonna do it all at once, or you won't be able to see it move.
I've gotta do them one at a time.
You can't do it incrementally.
Yes to the lake management districts, yes for Orca, which pains me, but we have to do it. Yes for the armored car, yes to the, how do you say that, permitium? Yes to the reallocation in CPED of their PIO, and yes to the community planning person reallocation, and then yes to it's a non-departmental that we have to pay for the support of the housing, support needs, yes to juvenile court, to not reduce, you could actually take 12,000 out of that. And then if we also said yes to the sheriff for the last item on this list for their rebound contract, that is the impact in total. See, from that to this.
I saw something move, but I couldn't hardly see
And
what.
that is if you said yes to everything on this
Yeah,
list.
It's just not worth,
It's a one time.
It's not worth a lot of time, and I don't know what just flew down, but I don't need it right now.
it's just not worth fighting.
That's right, it's not worth spending a lot of time on.
So,
So I'm gonna ask you, the only change that I made on this whole list is when you hit line 20, it's on page 3, it's the money for juvenile court. It's not worth their time to bring in this money, they're not gonna bring in 24,000 anyway on a grant. And really, they're only gonna spend around $12,000, so you could reduce their expenditure by 12,000. They remain whole, go ahead and reduce the revenue. But other than
So
that,
instead of 114, it's 102 or something.
102. Yep, so I would ask you to put thumbs up to this entire list with the change that
I'm
I've
good.
recommended.
I have a
One, two.
question.
Yes, ma'am.
On line 5, 6, and 7, which is the Lake Management District General Fund transfers,
Yeah.
and my question for those are, this goes to Public Works, but next year they're going to be changing departments. And so with that, where it's Public Works, I mean, should this not be?
We need to know that you're okay with paying this out of the general fund, and we'll
And
make
we'll make
sure
it
it goes to the right place. It would still go to these funds, the funds are just gonna move
So what it does
administratively.
not necessarily goes to public work, goes to the LMD's funds, because each one of those have a specific fund.
And then it gets paid out to?
Yeah, and then that fund itself will move to CPED, but still, the general fund will contribute to the fund itself.
this is just this isn't what we paid, this is just the
This is
incremental
the
change
increase, yeah. This is the
added to what
increase.
we already approved or something,
Yes, that's correct,
but
because their internal service
I don't wanna
costs
open this
are
can of
going up.
worms, but I mean, Mr. Halverson came and said, I don't wanna pay indirect rates, we funded the indirect rates, he continues to come and say, I don't wanna pay X, Y, and Z. Those are different things he doesn't wanna pay that's on top of indirect rates. Okay, but that's a conversation for another day, I guess. But we're continuing to fund the indirect rates, that was the
Phase
initial,
two,
was my
yeah.
understanding of the initial contention of what
Yeah,
was
we'll
not wanting
continue
to be
to
paid.
fund those, and you will have another decision point when the partisan and off-lake will come, when we will to continue to subsidize the indirect rates for the two LMDs additionally.
Okay, but I get it, this is just the indirect rate increase. Cause I know it was more than 5,000.
That's
It's
right.
more like 20,000.
It's roughly 10 and, it's roughly like 12 and 25.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay,
All right, so thumbs up to the list as it is with one minor change. 1, 2, 3.
So wait, so which one are we changing?
We are
not
changing
worth-
line 20
just not gonna
in
get us
juvenile
anywhere.
court
Spin our
to
wheels.
take 12,000, reduce their expenditures by 12,000.
Okay.
All right.
It leaves 12 in there.
Yep, leaves 12,000 in their bucket. It funds the sheriff's rebound, it's all of that. Now we are going to part 4, which I think is also gonna be pretty easy, just say yes kind of stuff.
Like no choice.
Well, some of it's no choice, most of it I would say is no choice.
So it's the
Ready?
cost of living, it's, yeah,
Right.
it's no choice kind
You've
of thing.
approved the COLA contract through the sheriff, so yes,
hold on, this one I got.
yep.
Yeah.
par four. And you asked
And
me.
those we've already signed off on a contract, right?
Exactly.
I don't know what the
So,
choice is.
so,
I've only
someone
got a
asked
few minutes,
me,
is it worth
what's
going
the,
through this now?
I'm sorry, what?
I only have a few minutes, so I have to,
I think it's only gonna take a few minutes
Okay.
for this list, because you had asked me what's the difference between part 4 and part 5. Part 4 are things that I think you must say yes to, or that you've already indicated that you will.
I totally agree, but I'd like to frame the conversation a little bit. The contract with the sheriff deputies and corrections. The sheriff deputies agree on the cost of living increases, you approved it, and with a $5,000 bonus one time. And this distributed through a 4 year, that was part of the contract. Corrections, we were offered the same bonus, they choose not to. And the contract, they choose go with a higher cost of living increase, which is included in here. So when you consider.
no bonus at all.
No bonus, and that was their choice. So when you consider bonuses for the rest of the employees,
It's 100 less.
it will be less the sheriff deputies and less corrections. So I just want to frame that conversation when you move forward.
220 or something.
Yeah, something like that. So,
Less, yeah.
and that's really what the conversation should be when you consider the rest of the staff.
Yeah.
But I'd like to frame that
Is that
conversation
how
at the
it's,
beginning.
is that how it's calculated in, or we haven't got to that
We
yet?
Haven't got to that point,
We've
but
not got to
but all
compensation
this
in
is,
the
all
next
this is
page.
related, but I just to remind the board the terms of those two contracts.
Yep.
Okay, ready? So, cost of living for the sheriff already approved contract, so yes to that. 1, 2, thumbs up, Gary. Oh, pardon me, Commissioner. And then, the next item is the cost of living for the sheriff, deputies. Thumbs up, yes. Next is you've already basically approved this is paying for the healthcare benefits for the, yep, good. And see the bars go down.
That's a significant
yep.
impact.
Here's
There we
a big nasty one,
$2
it
million.
is the contribution to the risk pool
Can I
that
vote
we
no for
have to do what?
I won't know for that.
You can vote no, but we have to maintain that fund at 40%, and this is the minimum to get us there, so,
And I'm on that
yes.
board, so I got to.
so watch the bar, here it goes. Boom.
There you go.
There we
Knew that was gonna do it.
So the next item on the list is the benefits adjustment for pension contributions for county employees. Yep, gotta do it, 1, 2, 3. Then we have, this is for LEF 1, rising costs of LEF 1. I know we wanna ask the state to pay, but the
We're not
county's
quite
on the
there yet.
hook.
Not quite
Yep,
there yet.
1, 2, thumbs up, Commissioner Menzer, for left 1, yep, thank you. Now we have the increase for this is a grant, totally grant funded to raise FTE from 0.8 to 1. It's no impact on fund balance.
Okay, so that was,
That's
they
why
came
it's
back.
on this
Okay.
list.
So, yeah.
Yep, that's a thumbs up.
Okay,
And the last item on this list is for public defense, again, 100% grant funded for ITA costs, yes.
Comes out of
1, 2,
treatment
3.
services
Yeah,
or
no, it
Yes,
comes,
it
yeah,
does.
yeah.
So
Right.
there is your new graph, and we're all done with par 4, and that leaves par 5. So we have the big things that are real decisions left. So for, I know you've gotta run. So we've got compensation conversation, including the percent of the COLA and potential bonuses. We will revisit REIT 1. Then we have this short list of requests that have no impact on fund balance. And the rest of the policy items, and that's what we have for this afternoon.
And we'll come back with the reaching.
Yep, we'll come back with REIT 2.
So then we're in break until 1?
How long will it take before you can zoom in?
20 minutes maybe, if you want.
So we could take a 20-minute break?
I think we should push through to see if we can finish the conversation today.
Oh, Do people
Let's
have,
give Ty a half hour.
Can't we just start at 1 instead of 1:30 and then we make it
that works
time?
for us, does that?
Works for me.
Let's
Works
just
for me.
stop
Alright.
now for lunch
I'm
and
blocked
start
out.
again at 1.
Yep.
That
Okay,
way,
so we'll be,
Have a piece of carrot.
appreciate
It's
it.
Alrighty.
That's very good, Robert, thank you.
thank you so much. We'll be back from break at 1.